Welcome to the Creation of Joy. My name is Nir Peretz and I'm at the Hanging Gardens of Bali. Today I'm staying at one of the hanging villas, and the reason I'm here is because you have this illusion that we are floating in the water and the whole place is floating in the air. And this is a very fitting location for the subject we are talking about today. So I'm going to talk about consciousness, and I'm going to start from the easier part of that. And the first issue is, how do we access our conscience, our reality? And basically we have the five senses, and it's just like you have a very powerful computer and you have terminals, except we have one terminal with five senses. So everything is going through very narrow band into our conscience, which is a small part of our mind. And we normally feel, do, and put attention to one subject or one main subject. So maybe lots of things happening in the background, but we feel and focus on one thing. When you have computer with many terminals, it's like they have many consciousness, and that's for a supercomputer or a server. But in our mind, we actually have the ultra supercomputer. It's much more powerful and bigger, but yet our conscience, our band to one terminal, which is our five senses, is very narrow. And that's why sometimes if you have overwhelming feeling or pain or other emotion, you will not put attention to other occurrence in your immediate environment, because everything going through this band, and if it's taking over the whole band, you don't notice everything else. More interesting is sometime when you watching illusions. So you can watch a magic show and there are a lot of things happen, but the performer is playing with our conscience. Conscience is a very complex issue, and in fact, so far I haven't heard anybody who explain it in a very defined way. So it's even difficult to define it, just like fire. We know it's a release of energy and we see the colors of it, but it's really difficult to define it. So how do you define conscience? We are awake, we put attention to something, and it's difficult to give it one sentence, one headline and define it. And a lot of people going through experiences when they don't know whether it's part of their conscience or unconscious. We move on to mind play. So we go to a museum and we look at a lot of painting, and let's say if we go to a museum that we see people images and people say, this is this person or that person. And actually what we're looking at is canvases with paint on them. And what happens is that we have very talented people, the artists, the painters, and they playing with our mind. They creating images on the canvas that we call them painting, and then we say these are portraits or events, etc. So conscience is a very subjective and very easy to play with. Some people can multitask. These are very talented people. A lot of people actually can multitask, but I see some very young people that because of technology, they are actually can multitask in a very comprehensive way. So they can type 100 words per minute whilst they're talking and having a discussion with you and still doing one other thing at the same time. So these are young people that, because the technology and their mind is continuing to develop, their band of consciousness is much wider than some other people, and their ability to access their conscience and multitask is much bigger. Now we go into the way that we learn things or influence people mind, etc. So just like the painter, we have a lot of people who can influence the opinions of people. They can do it with subconscious and conscious well in parallel. So when you look at TV ads, there are a lot of very, very sophisticated TV ads, and that they subconsciously entering and hypnotizing you or brainwashing you to like their service or product. So this is widespread used, and now actually it's being used in a very, very wide way, also as a political influence. And they especially influence people by using their emotions, fear, anger, jealousy, and you can see that used constantly in the media and through many, many other platforms. So as humanity, you and me, we need to understand our mind in a very deep way. And that's why consciousness is very important. When we understand it better, we, in one respect, be more guarded on the information that people want to give us. And we need to ask ourselves why they want to persuade us to do this or that. What is the ultimate? What is the motivation for that? And on the other hand, we want to know how we use our mind and our influence to create joy for other people and ultimately to ourselves. Thank you very much for joining, and see you at the next episode.